In this tutorial, I will show you the steps for using Tiki-Toki in our New Mexico history class. Tiki-Toki is the platform that we'll be using to create our digital timeline together this semester. Please note that this video is made for my intercession section of this course. These instructions apply, though, no matter whether you're taking a 12-week section of New Mexico history with me or a full 15-week section. The way that we use Tiki-Toki is the same, no matter what. Also, even if the background colors are a little different on our Blackboard page, again, the basic location of the assignment instructions and all of that will be the same, no matter which section you're in. Having said all of that, let me show you how to get to the timeline instructions. You can get to those via the syllabus, and maybe you've already done that, and that's awesome, that's great. You can also get to them here in the course content section of our menu in Blackboard. Click on Timeline. Here you'll notice there are a lot of things. There's a link to the timeline itself on Tiki-Toki. There's a link to the instructions. You will have already found this video. I'm going to replace this old version of the video with this one once I'm done with it. Scrolling down, please do look at the content tutorial and the explanation of historical significance. Those look at more in depth at what the assignment's about and what I'm trying to get at when I'm asking you to talk about the historical significance of the topics you've chosen. Scrolling down here, when you go to submit your work, just find the appropriate unit folder and click on the box. Remember that you'll need to submit your work both here on Blackboard and on the timeline itself. And that should become apparent here in just a minute. All right, so I'm going to open the timeline assignment instructions. These are opening in a new tab. They're in a Google Doc, just like most of the other class documents that we have. All right, and you can read through some of the more detailed instructions that I've provided. I'm not going to read through everything word for word, but I do want to point out that from the assignment instructions themselves, and I'm waiting for them to load since the internet here on campus isn't being super speedy right now. You'll notice here at the top, this link will take you to the timeline. So remember, you can get there from the timeline tab in Blackboard, and you can also use this link once you've opened the instructions. There are always multiple ways of doing things in our class. Once you do, these are the login credentials that you'll use for the timeline assignment. So let me show you how that looks. So I'm going to click on this link, again, opening a new tab. So I'm going to be toggling between our timeline here on Tiki-Toki and the assignment instructions and our Blackboard page. I'm already logged in, so I'm going to log out just so you can see what that looks like. So if you get here, you're not logged in, this is what you'll see. Just click this continue button to get that window to go away. Then click login. Once you do, this is where you will enter the login credentials that I just mentioned to you. So for our class, they are New Mexico history, and the password is HIST 2110 with a capital H. Please note that if you're not in my intercession section of this class, those are going to be different. So don't just use these no matter what class you're in. Go and look and see what login credentials are here on the assignment sheet that you have for your section of the class. All that's to say, I make separate timelines for every section of the class that I teach, and so yours may be different than this. So please take note of that and use the information that is provided to you in the assignment instructions you have in Blackboard. So you'll notice New Mexico history is already typed in here because I have these saved in my browser. Also the password, capital HIST 2110. So I just have to click login. You would have to type those in if you were doing this for the first time. This is what you'll see next. Scroll down. And please note, if you go down this far, you've gone too far. This tells you there's a timeline limit, you've reached your limit, you can't make any more. Don't worry about that. You don't have to make a new timeline. Instead, what you're going to do is work on the timeline that I've already created for our class. So to do that, you click on the words New Mexico history. And then you'll notice this timeline that you saw at the beginning only now you have this white admin box up here. I've already posted some work here. I'll show you how to do that though, so let me delete that real quick so that I can show you how to do it from scratch. Back over here, the timeline assignment. Please notice there is an FAQ, so if you have some questions, check into that to make sure those questions the answers aren't covered for you there. Even if you read that and you don't quite understand what the answers were that I provided, go ahead and ask, send me an email. Again, always ask questions in this class. I'm scrolling down past the assignment instructions so that I can link to, or open, I should say, this example that I've created. So when you do your work on the timeline, the very first thing that you will do is choose a topic based on the reading that we're doing for the unit that we're currently working on. So for Unit 2, for example, one of the topics we talk about is Beringia, or the Bering Strait Land Bridge. That's a topic I think is pretty cool. It's something I want to research more about. And the timeline, remember, it's something that will allow you to do a little bit further research, look for different perspectives than what have been presented in our textbook, so that you can add to our understanding of the topic that you've chosen. So that's kind of the underlying principle and objective of this assignment. So once I know, before I do any work on this, I know that this is my topic, I'm going to post what I call a placeholder on the timeline. So all I've done is I'm just copying that title there so that I can paste it over here. So when you're ready to paste your work into Tiki-Toki, you click Create New Story, and then you'll have access to these boxes. You put the title here, so that's why I copied it. There's my title. And then I'm going to choose a range of dates for this. So you'll notice that this is between 75,000 and 13,000 years ago, or approximately 73,000 BCE to 11,000 BCE, just so that the timeline doesn't get really out of whack in terms of the date ranges that we're covering. I'm just going to place this one at 11,000 BCE for the sake of argument here. One of the things that you'll need to do as you create your timeline entries is you will have to make choices about how and where you place your timeline entries. They should have direct relevance to the topic you've chosen. So for example, if you chose Billy the Kid, he was active in the Lincoln County War in 1880. He died in 1881. He was born 20 years before that, roughly. So you can either choose his birth date for your entry, or you could choose 1880 when he was most active in the Lincoln County War. That's a choice. That's up to you. I'm not going to prescribe how you do that because I want you to think about the ways in which historians have to make choices about the ways that we tell stories about the past and what goes into that. So that's just one small glimpse of that kind of choice. So you'll notice I put in 11,000 to BC. You do have to click on the calendar itself, so there's not an exact date for this. These are date ranges. So I'm just going to pick April 1st for the sake of argument so that Tiki-Toki will work. And then I click confirm. And you'll notice there's my date here. Again, as I said with this one, I'm just going to leave it all at 11,000 BCE. I'll do April 30th because why not? And there it is. So that gives us the general positioning of this event. Next, I'm going to write my name. If you don't want to type your name in here, if you'd rather not have your name on this publicly, digitally available thing, that is okay, because once you post your work to Blackboard, I'll be able to find you. If you don't post your work to Blackboard, though, and I see an entry with no name on it, I'll have no idea what to do with it. Also, if you don't post your work to Blackboard, I probably won't be able to find your work anyway. So what I'm saying is please remember to post your work also to Blackboard. I'll show you that in a second. So this is a place, the Bering Strait Land Bridge. So I chose a category. If your topic doesn't quite fit into those categories, let me know and I can create a new one for you. Next, I'm just going to click Save. So what I've done here is I've created a placeholder. I've made a claim on this topic. So now when others come to the timeline, as they're choosing their topics, they'll know this one's already taken. No one else can do the Bering Strait land bridge because I've done it, I've claimed it. I want to claim it though before I do all of my work, because I don't want to go and do a bunch of work and then come back to the timeline and see that someone else has taken my topic. So hopefully that makes sense. Going back over here to this Google Doc, you can use Word or whatever word processing system you prefer and that works for you. I have completed the assignment. So as you read through the instructions, you'll see that you need to find what I call an outside source. So this is generally an internet source that provides credible, reliable, and relevant information about the topic you've chosen. You'll have to make some judgment calls about that as you do your research. And this is a source that I use in addition to what I know from reading our course materials for creating my post. You'll also need to do either a video or an image. I've chosen a video in this case. I'll also show you how to do an image though, so that you can do either one, whichever one is easier and most readily available for your particular topic. You only have to do one or the other. You don't have to do both. And I should say either a video or an image. You do have to do both an outside source and a video or image. Then you need to write an entry. So your entry should be 2 to 3 paragraphs in length, and it should define and explain what this thing is. So give us some background. If you've chose a person, let us know something about that person's life, the times that they lived in, and then also explain to us what their historical significance to New Mexico history is. So you'll notice if you read mine, I've done that in this last paragraph. I explain that Beringia holds significance to New Mexico history because it was the major pathway for the arrival of the region's earliest inhabitants. And then I go on a little bit more about that. So be as specific as you can, include examples to explain historical significance. This is the part where you're going to provide your interpretation of this thing. You're going to tell us why it matters. You're going to tell us the answer to the question, so what, in that historical significance piece. So again, that's what you'll be doing in a nutshell. There are a lot more detailed instructions about that in the timeline assignment document. But those are the elements that you'll need to both submit to Blackboard and post into the timeline. So let's go back to the timeline so I can show you how to post all of these things in there. I know that I'm going to post the outside source first, so I'm going to copy that URL, and then I'm going to click the link box down here and paste that URL in. Then I'm going to click save. Please click save early and often. Sometimes when a few of us are working on the timeline at the same time together, it will kick you out, it'll log you out. And I do know that's frustrating. I do apologize for that. But that's also one of the reasons that I ask you to do all your work elsewhere, so that all you're doing once you get to this part of the assignment is just putting the information here. All right, so that's all you do with this basic info section. Click on extra info and you use this box to enter the text of your entry. So I'm going to go back to the example and I'm going to copy those paragraphs that I wrote, and I'm going to paste those into the full text box. So you'll notice that it has preserved those spaces I have between paragraphs. It's more or less kept the formatting. Depending on how you've written it, you may have to fix a little bit of the formatting in here. But then again, always click save. If you want to see how things are progressing with your actual entry, click more. And then you can see not only is my name there, but now my written entry is there. And this box that my head is in the way of, I'm going to move me up here, that says find out more. That's the link to the outside source. And I'll show you that in just a moment. To add your image or video, click Media, Add New Media, and then go back over here and copy that URL for your video. So then I'm going to go back here, I'm going to, in the source box, paste the URL, make sure there's not an extra space in it. Because this one's a video, I need to click on this type and choose video. You can also put audio in here if you want, if you find a good audio file. You don't have to add a thumbnail or anything or a caption unless you want to. Click save, and then you'll notice there's the video. So when you click on the video, it will pop up and you can play it here right in Tiki-Toki. I'm going to close that out. I do want to show you how to add an image. So I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to go to images.google.com. I know that's what was typed in there, even though you couldn't see it. So I'm going to do Google Images, and I'm going to type in Beringia. Apparently I've looked this up before. All right, now something that is kind of important to do when you're searching Google Images is click Settings, and then click Search Settings. Nope. Couldn't remember what it was that I wanted to do. Let's see. There we go. Go back. Hold on, at the Tools. It never seems like the right thing. Tools, and you'll notice these options pop up right here. You click More Tools. Nope, sorry. It's like I've never done this before. This is one of those things I have to remind myself of. Usage rights. Click Usage rights, and then choose either labeled for reuse or non-commercial reuse. Doing this will ensure that you've chosen images that are not copyrighted and that are okay to reuse. I kind of like this one, I think. So I'm going to click on it from the Wikimedia Commons, and it will pop up larger right there if you're using Google Images. You cannot just copy the URL up here in the browser bar. Instead, you need to put your cursor directly on the image itself and right-click or control-click if you're using a Mac like I am, and then you'll see this other menu pop up. You want to choose Copy Image Address. If you're using a different browser other than Google Chrome, the wording on that might be slightly different, but you want to choose the option that is going to allow you to copy the URL for the image itself. So in this case, Copy Image Address, I click on that. I go back over here, I'm in Media, I click Add New Media. This time, I'm going to just paste that address that I just copied from Google Images into the source box. I can leave that as image because this one is an image, and I click Save. Now you'll notice up here, there are images and videos. And again, you don't have to do both, you just have to do one or the other. But I wanted to show you how to correctly get an image to display. If you copy the wrong URL, or if you use the one from the browser bar, nothing will display in that box. So that is super important here. All right, so I'm going to minimize this so you can see that my entry is complete. That's what it will look like. You scroll down, you can read through, you click Find Out More, and it will open your outside source in a new tab, more or less quickly depending on your internet connection. And so you can look at each other's work once you go back to the timeline. What I've just showed you is the timeline ID step. This is the part that is due by the end of the first day of each unit. By the end of the second day of each unit, you'll complete the connection step. That requires you to come back to the timeline. And of course, there's only one entry here right now, which is mine. But by the time you come back here, you'll see other people's work, and you'll have to find something that connects to your topic. So someone else's post that in some way connects to the event or person or place that you posted. And you'll write a short paragraph that explains what that connection is and why it's significant. There's more specific detail about that in the timeline assignment instructions. But when you get that part ready, you'll want to also type out your connection paragraph on a Word document or a Google Doc. And then you'll want to go back to the timeline. You'll go to your story, not the other person's story that you're connecting to, but to your story. You'll go back to extra info, scroll to the bottom, maybe enter a time or two, and then write connection. And then paste your paragraph there and click Save. Hopefully that all makes sense. Let me show you. I'm going to go back here to Blackboard. From each learning module, there is a link to the area where you'll submit your work on Blackboard. But as I mentioned, here in the Timeline tab where we're already at, there are those same links. So if you go to Unit 2 Timeline Submissions, for example, in this folder you will see the submission area for both the ID step that I just showed you and the connection step that you'll do on the second day of the unit. So you just click here, and this is a regular submission area in Blackboard. You scroll down, and you attach the file by browsing your computer. So however you've saved this, you will enter it there. If you've done a Google Doc and you want to share it, you can just paste the URL in the right submission area. Sometimes that gets tricky because if you have an APS Google Docs account, for some reason, I'm never able to access those, and I really don't know why. Even if you make them publicly accessible, it doesn't work. I don't know why, but that has been the case. So you might want to just download that as a Word doc or as a PDF and then attach it here. And then, of course, click Submit. I'm not going to do that because I'm the instructor and it will not do anything when I try. Okay, so again, that's how you submit to Blackboard. Make sure that you've done both, submission to Blackboard and to the timeline, so that we can build this thing together this semester. I'm very excited to work on the timeline with you all. This has been a great assignment. I've used it with students over the past few years, and I really like it being the center of the class, rather than having like the discussion board or something as the center of the class. So this is where we'll be doing kind of most of that, the work where we will be creating and sharing our insights and perspectives on different aspects of New Mexico history. Essentially, this is work that historians do. So I hope you enjoy the assignment. I hope this makes sense. Please do ask questions as you have them, and I look forward to a great semester.